Remember how you loved the stories at bedtime about princesses and fairy godmothers? Well, you may want to hold on tighter to your teddy bear and keep that nightlight on, because these are not your mother's bedtime stories.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Not Your Mother's Bedtime Story. We have another good one for you this evening. But first, let's do a quick round the table, introduce everybody again, just make sure we all remember who's on the phone. This is Sherry taking the lead here today. Next up.
Hey, I'm Chrissy.
And Colleen, the oldest, is here.
And Karen, the mom.
And Tim, the uncle.
And doing his own intros tonight, it's Uncle Tim.
We're actually bringing everyone back to Iowa. So we're going to talk a little bit more, some stories there. And so we do have a couple of special guests here. We have our Uncle Tim and our cousin Nick. And so they're going to be telling about some of the experiences that they have had. And you have met Nancy already a couple of times. So this would be Nancy's husband and her son. Apparently this family just, has the experiences, but we're intrigued and a little bit grateful for them because we get to talk about them on our podcast. So we're going to let Tim and Nick talk a few stories about some of the things that occurred to them in a house that they used to live in. So with that, Tim, I'll hand it over to you and we can get started here.
Yeah, my first story was we had a storm one time, and it was like in the middle of the night, and something woke me up and sent me to get the kids upstairs because they were real small. And I was up there getting the kids before the storm even hit. So I always felt like somebody was looking out for me, for no better thing to say. But even Nancy was like, "What are you doing? What are you yelling?" And I said, "Well, there's a storm coming." And then it hit. And I mean, it devastated a lot of stuff around us. So I always felt from that point on that somebody was looking out for me.
So you felt like somebody actually woke you up from sleep?
Pretty much. Because it was like 2:00 in the morning or something like that. So, and I'm a hard sleeper. So I said to Nancy, "Can't you hear that?" And you really couldn't hear anything yet. It was a weird feeling, but it was kind of cool too. Like somebody's looking out for you.
And a little bit of background behind it. The home that we had lived in the time, years prior to us purchasing it, a woman had committed suicide in the garage on Valentine's Day. So, I mean, that provided kind of the spooky source to the house, to where a lot of things that happened, maybe got attributed to that. But I know experiences that I had, younger, a lot of times were just dismissed to imagination. I'd be like, wake up and tell my mom or dad that I'd heard something strange, maybe calling my name, and I think I'd get the typical "shut up and go back to bed" sort of a thing, and then actually as I got into, my adolescent years, things just were happening so fast for me that I really wasn't paying attention to what was around me. But probably some of the experiences that really stuck out to me the most happened when I was an adult and coming back to visit them. There was a particular time that they were away in Italy, and I was coming back to kind of just greet them at home and everything, and I had gotten to the house before they had gotten back. And it just kind of, as time went on, I increasingly felt just kind of almost, when I was the only one there, that I maybe necessarily wasn't welcome, or that there was just, kind of an eerie presence in the place or something like that. And the time I'm mentioning where I went back when they were coming back from Italy, I remember coming home after being out, a night hanging out with my friends and partying and stuff. And so naturally I had to come and have a bowl of cereal or something like that. And anyway, so when I got home, though, I noticed that the motion-activated night lights, as soon as I had shut the door downstairs, the one in the kitchen had come on, and then I was like, "Oh, I saw that one on." And then as I'm going up the stairs, I noticed another one went on in the living room. And I was like, that was kind of weird. I thought maybe somebody was home or something like that. I got upstairs, there's nobody there. So sitting in the kitchen anyways, after that little small episode, I was eating my cereal, And I just couldn't help but I kept on looking out of the corner of my eye into the open living room, like there's something standing in there. And every time I would look, there would nothing be there. But I mean, my mind was playing tricks on me or something, and I just kept looking over there, and I just had the creepiest feeling. Don't know if I even finished my cereal, but I ended up just kind of saying, "Well, this is enough of this." So I went to go to bed, and I think I maybe locked the door behind me. But several times I had thought that Mom and Dad had gotten home from Italy because I'd hear noise in the kitchen. I thought I heard cupboards opening and closing or something like that. Even one time I could have sworn I saw the light switch come on and off. Whether I had to go to the bathroom or not, I don't think I ever left the room that night until it got light outside. And, that thought always just kind of stuck with me that, it was like, God, it was like there was just something there. And I didn't really become in tune with it till I guess kind of later in life, I suppose.
And we named that entity Lily.
That's the name that come along with it.
And it's interesting because if she was protective of Tim, or even protective of the family, why would she be giving creepy vibes to Nick while he was there?
He had moved away, so he wasn't really part of it anymore.
Got mad that he moved away.
That could be.
Well, it's just that was
eating your favorite cereal or something.
That was kind of
eating her cereal.
Yep, that was my chaotic kind of late 20s, early 30s. Prior to having kids, I'd come home and run around all night with my friends, and then come back home and trash the kitchen, So
maybe she didn't like that.
She probably didn't appreciate my disorderliness or something like that.
He didn't approve. No.
Was the cereal blueberry?
I was pretty much subject to whatever Mom and Dad had, so it was usually Raisin Bran with a bunch of sugar on it or something like that.
Yeah, that's my thought. It is really weird because you really grew up in that house. I think you were maybe like just a little, maybe like a preschooler or early school year, right when you guys moved in. So, the spirit saw you grow up per se, but just didn't approve of your adult choices
and perhaps maybe it really wasn't even like maybe that if there was some sort of a thing happening there, it may not have even been defensive and didn't want me there. It might have just been there, and I just noticed it, and obviously noticing something like that would creep you out, especially at 1 o'clock on a Sunday morning after coming home from a bender.
I always felt like something was around, but I only had a few experiences where it actually happened. And the other one was I was up visiting Nick where he moved to up, and I came home and I was using the restroom, and all of a sudden I could hear, "Oh, you're home." I'm going, "Oh, Nancy's here," or something like that. And when I went out and checked the house out, there was nobody there. But I could hear that just as plain as day as, "Oh, you're home." And that kind of made me start thinking.
And did it sound, so obviously it was female if you said you thought it was Nancy, but did it sound like Nancy or?
Well, I was coming from the other room,
Okay.
so it was a little distorted, but it was plain as day. I can never forget that.
Wow.
Wow.
It's like she's looking for you.
Well, and she kind of had a little bit of attachment to you. Didn't she tell you something else when you were working in the garage or
I
something
poured
one time?
a new driveway and a sidewalk. There was never a sidewalk that came around to the front door. So I poured all that. And I had a couple of friends help me, and it was all done. And I was in the garage cleaning things up. And I hear plenty of days, she says, "Oh, nice job." She said, "That's a nice job." Or something like that. Just as plain as day. Man, that kind of, I kind of dropped the tools, out there cleaning. But I'm going,
Wow.
Probably not just the tools dropped that day.
Change your underwear time. Right.
yeah, it's the same garage that she killed herself in. So,
The driveway out in front of it, yeah.
but I was actually in the garage.
Oh, you were in the garage.
Mm. So that was, but you know what? I never felt threatened. I felt like somebody was looking out for me.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously she didn't think that much of Nick. So
Let's say I wonder if she just had an attachment to you. And she was a single lady, right? So, and she,
she was married.
Oh, she was married. Okay.
Right. Got you actually a prominent businessman here.
Were they married when she had committed suicide?
Right.
I guess I figured there was trouble. Somebody commits suicide on Valentine's Day. So.
Right.
Well, I did a lot of
why
remodeling
would-
at the house. We
right.
lived there for 30 years, and I put a room addition, garage, stuff like that. Every time I did something, he would always drive by and up and down the alley to see what I was doing. So he was interested in the house, I guess. Maybe he was looking for her. I don't know.
That's interesting.
Well, they do always say when you remodel the house, you can stir up the spirits, but maybe you're also stirring up.
Well, I always felt like she liked everything I did.
So.
It sounds like it. She's very positive feedback.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Right. She was pleased. So did she ever do anything to Nancy that, like she didn't approve of Nancy, or she was?
She never really talked to me. I never really felt a presence or anything like that. So must have had a thing for men. But there was a few other people that said that when they went into our house when we weren't there, they didn't feel welcome. They just kind of got a real strange feeling if we weren't there.
And we never did.
Yeah, we didn't really get a feeling like that. Nothing foreboding. By the way, this is Aunt Nancy.
Yeah, and it's on that note of the people kind of not feeling welcome in the house. I know kind of numerous counts of babysitters not liking to be there, at night after we would have gone to bed before mom and dad would get home. I know there was a couple times that we had a babysitter watch us that I think mom and dad would come home and every single light in the house would be on, and they would be in the corner of the couch with the pillows stacked up around them. It's just, finally good, you're home. Thank you, bye.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Huh. That's interesting. So yeah, definitely protective of the family. And it's almost like she maybe forgot who you were, Nick, or something that night when you came back. It's like, you're not Nancy and Tim. You haven't lived here in a while. You shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right.
Strange. There was a few times when we had a dog that the dog would look up at a wall in the living room, and it was above an entertainment center that we had. I couldn't figure out what she was looking at, but she would bark and sit back and look up at it. It's like, oh, geez, it's kind of like Poltergeist, or whatever, where the dog was looking at the spot on the wall. But she would, and she did it more than once. And I didn't know if it was maybe reflections off of like the mirror picture we had up behind there that she would see something move or what. But yeah, she would look up at that wall, bark, and kind of whine, actually. So another strange occurrence.
They can sense things, so you never know.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
It's always toddlers and pets.
Yeah.
They sense character and they sense ghosts. It's like they always say, if you're questioning someone's character, give them a baby or give them a dog and see how they react.
True. I think there were a few times that our daughter Lauren, I think she had a couple experiences in the house, especially in the night, and didn't tell me till the next day. It's like, well, why didn't you come and get me? And she said, well, I would have had to go through the kitchen to go down to get you. But Lauren, would you like to elaborate on your night? She's here too.
Another special guest.
Hi, this is Lauren. I didn't have that many experiences. I think, as growing up our whole life there, that, you might have thought you heard something, but there's this one instance that sticks out to me. It was the summer night, and everybody else had been in bed, and I came home and, was getting ready and just got into bed, and it was warm, but we still had windows open, and it sounded like bare feet were walking across the kitchen floor. And like maybe kind of going through like a cabinet, and I, not even thinking, was like, oh, Nick must be awake. So I got up to go talk to him, and I walked halfway to the kitchen and all the lights were off, and I'm like, wait a second, no one's awake. And then I ran back in my room. But it was enough noise to make it seem like someone was up walking around. And I think I thought I heard the faucet running as well in the kitchen.
And that's interesting because Nick said something similar about hearing cabinets open. And so I wonder if she had a
Yeah,
with the kitchen.
Yeah, the kitchen seemed to be the hotbed for the paranormal activity in the house, I would
That
guess.
was
But
her area.
yeah, like,
right?
well, that time that I had come home, when I was kind of, just like I said, kind of greeting mom and dad as they came back from Italy, it's, those motion activated night lights that we had that kind of started. The first one that I noticed go off, and I hadn't walked into the room yet. It's just dark, and all of a sudden you see this motion activated light turn on. That was in the kitchen, and then all of a sudden I saw the one. It was kind of almost like moving. Started in the kitchen, then went to the living room. And that kind of kicked off the really eerie night that night, and that one really sticks out in my mind more so really than probably any of the other events that I recall around the house.
She never talked to me though, only Dad.
Yep.
He was her favorite. Well, and Lauren, didn't your bedroom overlook the garage in sort of a way?
Yeah.
Or...
So my bedroom was right next to the garage, and there was a window that used to be in there that went out to the garage. But my mom and dad thought that was kind of creepy or an easy way for me to sneak out of the house. I don't know. So they closed off that window. But I feel like there was a time later on, I had moved out, Nick had moved out, and Mom had said there was a lot of cats, or was it cats and dogs that were coming towards the house? And
we always had animal issues.
Yeah. She said she kind of felt like there was a weird presence. So that's what made us research a little bit more into our Lily, and found out that she had committed suicide on Valentine's Day, and she had just turned, I think she was 45. Yeah, we were able to find I think it was her gravestone.
And so you didn't know that had happened when you initially moved in, Lauren? You said you did research and found that out, so that wasn't known.
We knew that it had happened. We just didn't know anything in particular, like the time of year, or actually, Debbie's husband Steve grew up with a kid that lived in the house, and he had actually been there and visited them, and knew of the family, and our neighbor, he knew about them, had told Mom and Dad the circumstances of her being depressed, and windows being nailed shut in the house. And, it had been brought up, just not specifics, or if something happened around a certain time of the year.
I guess I never caught any of the windows being nailed shut part, but that adds a little bit of a degree of spookiness to it.
Mm-hmm. Lauren, did you feel that you weren't welcome, or were you just kind of creeped out because you were hearing things in the dark?
That was when I was actually a teenager and I still lived at home. So I didn't, like I said, my first instinct when I heard it was oh, Nick's awake, I'm going to go hang out with him before I go to bed. It wasn't even to think that there was a ghost-like presence, because it just sounded so real. And then I guess as I, moved out of the house, and if I came back to check on something at Mom and Dad's, if, they weren't home, I did feel like there was something a little off with the house. You didn't ever feel very comfortable, or if you were sitting in the sunroom, you could look into the living room and how long it was. It did feel like there was something there, or you just didn't feel quite right.
Yeah, it definitely gave you, I don't know, what is that? The thalassophobia or something like that, the fear of emptiness. Whenever you get up at night and have to go to the bathroom, you would never look all the way down the hall into the living room. Or when you were in the sunroom, you would never gaze through the French doors into the living room. It was just kind of darkness and emptiness. And it was a nice room, but at nighttime, it just gave you that vibe, because it was just always kind of down a hall or away from what you're going to be looking at. But yeah, never ever did I ever wake up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, which I typically had to do, ever look into the living room. You just quick turn the corner and you go right into that bathroom, and you go right back in your bedroom and you shut the door.
Well, was that sunroom, was that original, or did you guys add that on?
Yeah, that was added on. I think we had moved in.
Right. So you almost wonder, I've heard stories where if something's not original to the house, the ghosts actually don't know what to do with it because it wasn't there when they were there. And so if the sunroom was confusing to her or something because it wasn't original, it's what do I do with this part of the house that isn't here? It confuses them. And so it's either not haunted at all, or it can become a hotbed because they don't recognize it and are mad or frustrated about something about the house that wasn't original to when they lived there. So.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I think, Lauren, wouldn't you agree that like we felt more comfortable in the sunroom?
Yeah, that was our
to relax, or I mean, like there used to be a TV in the living room too, but it kind of got phased out. You know, nobody would really ever want to just sit and relax in the living room. You know, we would just go in the sunroom, and I guess looking back on it, stuff that I never was perceptive of at the time, that now looking back, it makes me wonder. It's like we just always felt relaxed in the sunroom. It was more of a welcoming environment, I guess. You just looked at it and you sat down and you felt good. And in the living room, you almost kind of felt like you were always waiting for something.
And one thing I just remembered too is that if you were in the basement, and it was like a nice basement, like mom and dad's bedroom was down there. There was a area to watch TV. But every once in a while, you would just get this very fragrant floral smell that would come up. And it would always be that same smell. And it would come and go, but like for years. So it wasn't like, like a cleaning product, because you would smell it more when it cleaned, but it just would always come and go that you'd smell this floral smell every once in a while.
Ooh. I didn't heard that.
Because sometimes it could be like rotten smells. We didn't smell that.
Yeah,
but.
better than a bad one.
Well, Nick, did you have a story about the other house that you lived in? With a locked door or something?
The one that I'd moved into. Oh gosh, no! That we had moved when I moved up to Guttenberg. I moved into a home that was built in the late 1800s. My girlfriend was terrified of the house. I really never necessarily got a strange vibe of it, but she was terrified of the house, especially the basement. And I would go down there to do laundry and stuff. And the weird thing about the basement was that it was a rental, but there was a room down there that was locked. And it was a decent sized room, and I was never allowed to see what was in there. I had asked what was in there, and he just said stuff. That was a particularly creepy aspect of the house. No, I had once again I got a couple kind of creepy vibes. I think one time, just when I only lived there for a short period of time, but yeah, I know my girlfriend though, it was now my wife. She was terrified. She would never stay there alone. So yeah, if I wasn't there, she wasn't there. But even though she did spend a lot of time there during those days, but no, I had never really kind of witnessed anything kind of with my eyes truly paranormal with those things besides the light instance at the house. But I can recall another time kind of when I was in my late teens, early 20s, where the typical age where kids go out in the country and do illegal things and stuff like that. One time, a friend of mine and I had gone out into the country and just being kids and doing stupid things, and we were just kind of parked in an area, and it was all dark, and there was kind of an opening where there was power lines that ran for a distance, and my friend kept looking off in the distance, and I'm like, what are you looking at? I see like a light out there coming or something like that, and like I was like, oh gosh, it was old Farmer Fran or something like that. And it was all of a sudden I could see it too, and it looked like a ball of swarming light. There was thousands of little lights and it's spinning around and things like that. And it was kind of slowly, kind of side to side, moving its way down this clearing. And my friend was like, "Well, we got to get out of here. We got to go. And I was like, "I want to see it." And it, all of a sudden, it quit kind of meandering like it was, and it started to seem to kind of start moving directly towards us. And my friend was starting to almost panic at that point. It was just like, "We got to go." And I was like, "I got to see it." And like I said, it just looked like thousands of lights spinning around in a circle, about probably 2.5 foot in diameter or so. And, kind of like it was gaining speed, and I still was like, my friend's like hitting me, like, we've got to go. And I was like, I want to see it, and by the time I realized that it was moving straight towards us and it was gaining speed, I started the vehicle and I wanted to hit the headlights. And I went to turn the headlights on and the headlights didn't work. And the vehicle did start though. And I put it in reverse and I started kind of backing up while still trying to see it. And at that point, the thing kind of seemed to gain speed. And we were on a dead end road. I just hit the gas in reverse. I was in a little S10 Blazer. And at some point in time, I think we were going probably 35, 40 miles an hour in reverse. And this thing's still kind of almost kind of keeping up with us. And I tried to do my best whip around turn without rolling over in the ditch. And I never did really get a good look at what it was. I did the whip around turn and made it safe. And I took off and, never even looked in the rear view mirror. It was just the dust and gravel flying and everything else. And up to that point, that was kind of just the most unique, craziest, most unexplained thing that I had ever seen. And it really sticks out as kind of some of the number one creepy things that have happened to me up until the night that I had mentioned previously, coming back the night before my parents had returned home from Italy.
That's weird. Yeah, the moving lights. So it couldn't be like a farmer plowing his field or like anything like that, because it was moving after you, right? Like as you guys were going away.
Yep, it was very
and it wasn't, we weren't under the influence of substance at that point, so that's probably what we went out there for. That was my next question.
But it was a raw experience, and I'm a science teacher now, and I'd never come up with an explanation for it. I know it could have been some rare visual phenomena, related to the static electricity with the power lines or something. I've researched into lightning bugs and, strange breeding habits and stuff like that.
That'd be some aggressive lightning bugs.
That wouldn't explain kind of the following thing. Because and I had also thought about ball lightning too, which ball lightning is it is a thing. Like I said, science teacher over here. But it like I said though, it seemed to be meandering at one point and then seemed to move very directly.
And this was pre-drone time.
Yeah. So this would have been probably 21 years ago or so.
And you mentioned trying to debunk it. So if you could compare it to anything, what would you compare it to?
I don't know. Some sort of like a party light disco ball. But it had inner movings though. It wasn't just the outside. It was things on the inside were swirling and moving with light.
How bright was it?
And it was it was points of light too. It wasn't like one light source. It was many points of light within there. And I sound like old George Bush, 1,000 points of light, and but no, as far as brightness goes, I don't know, standard white Christmas lights, okay. Or it had a yellowish white look to it. I would say pre-LED Christmas lights.
Right. And how big again was it?
It was hard to say. I probably would say it changed size, but I would guess 2 to 3 foot in diameter if I had to guess, maybe a little smaller.
Oh. But it could keep up with you in a vehicle. So
yeah, it at some point in time it would have had to have been moving upwards of 30 miles an hour or so, I would say. Which that kind of right there kind of shoots the firefly lightning bug hypothesis in the ass. And, I tried to think if it was something with that, ball lightning, different, meteorological phenomena, but nothing really prevailed as, you know what I mean? The only thing really that I could ever just, say like that was my UFO experience or whatever. It seems like everybody's got one or something like that.
I do have to say the reason why we're giggling every time you mention ball lightning, Mom and I watch The Osbournes Want to Believe, and that's Ozzy Osbourne's reason for anything in the sky. It's ball lightning.
It's ball lightning.
So I have to giggle now every time. Even Graham, my son, is always like, "Oh, Mom, it's ball lightning. It's just ball lightning."
Well, coincidentally, my students at school are working with weather right now, and we just did a weather phenomena project, and one or two of them picked the ball lightning thing.
And the other thing we've talked about this in previous podcasts, is when you're not alone. So you were with a friend who witnessed the exact same thing. So you could play off of each other and say, obviously he was seeing it if he was hitting you, telling you to go. But, it's one thing if you're, I could have just imagined that. I could have saw something. It was but for two people to see the same thing and, not have any idea of what it could be and all of these different, it makes it more difficult to rule certain things out than I think.
Right. It adds credibility to your story, Chris.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Did you ever go back there?
No. Nope, I had
Found
never,
a new
I had
spot?
Never,
No.
never went back there again. That pretty much did it for me. But I know that area was a unique area. I mean, it was, you'd hear stories about people would go out there and do similar things, and there was landowners there that were very territorial. They would threaten to shoot you or something like that. So always made you wonder what was going on back there. Yep, that one did it. So whatever it did, it worked. So we were not repeat offenders in that case.
It scared them away.
Fran, the disco ball worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, put that disco ball back in the plug.
It's
Probably went back to their stills.
yeah. No, that's probably what was going on. No, I'd like to hope that there was some sort of explanation, but yeah, that this was pre-drones. In my opinion, it would have been advanced of any technology.
All right, Nancy, you ready for that late night attack?
The intruder
on Tim during Halloween.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, it was so funny. Okay. Yes, this was years ago, of course. My now 40-year-old son was 5 years old, or not even yet. We had moved to this house as a rental, and it was a 2-bedroom home with a bathroom, right between the bedrooms and everything. And since Nick was old enough to get up and go to the bathroom in the night, I always had a nightlight on in the bathroom. So our bedroom on one side, the kids slept in the other bedroom on the other side, Lauren in a crib. Halloween time comes around, and I had some, they were paper, but they were like hinged, where you could move the arms and the legs of a Frankenstein figure. Probably about 5 feet tall, and, totally looked like the, Boris Karloff Frankenstein figure. And I had him taped to the side of a hutch that was right against the wall that would lead into where the bedrooms and the bathroom were. We went to bed one night, and of course the little hallway between the bedrooms had this eerie glow from the nightlight that was on in the bathroom, and a noise woke us up. And Tim was sleeping in the bed closest to the door, and he looked over and he saw what appeared to be someone laying on the floor, but kind of crouched and propped up against the side, looking around the corner like they were crawling on the floor. And it jerked him really awake at that point in time, and sprang up and started to approach this figure. Very almost staccato movements. It's like he's probably thinking, what do I do? It's like my kids are in the other room, and, my wife and I are in here, and this intruder is, crouching and looking around the door. And he gets up and he's walking towards this figure, and his arms are out like he's going to grab him. And he gets up close enough and he just stops, and I think he had a few words to say. It was the Frankenstein cutout figure that had fallen down, appeared as though it was looking around the corner, and Tim's just like, God, about gave me a heart attack. And he goes, not to mention, he was ugly, looked like Frankenstein,
Big square head.
That's my favorite story.
Oh my gosh.
So
Oh
funny.
yeah, I laughed at that, and of course he was mad, and he's like, well, it's not funny. And oh my gosh. Yeah, it probably did about give him a heart attack, but I tell you what, I'm surprised he didn't go over there and tear it to pieces. He was going to.
We got to give Tim props for.
No way was that thing coming around the corner. He was gonna get him,
I think he was in his tidy whities.
He might have been in his tiny whities.
He was going to take on that Frankenstein.
hair was wild because I think he had a little longer hair at the time, and the hair is sticking up all over the place. But he was going to get him.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
we still have a good
Every
laugh
time.
about that, and it probably took
Oh,
10
my
years off of
goodness.
his life, though.
It's so funny.
Yep, that's your nightcap for the day. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. These were a lot of good. You guys have a lot of good stories.
We do.
There's
As a family.
yeah, as a family, they're wealth.
yeah. Lots of family experiences.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on here with us and spending some time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, Nick.
We always
and
enjoy
Tim.
hearing the
Yeah.
stories.
Well, that wraps up another episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. For now, take it away, Mom.
Thank you for listening, and remember to keep that night light on. Good night, sweet dreams.
If you have a story to share, please send it to notyourmothersbedtimestory@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at notyourmothersbedtimestory. And please help us grow by following us on your favorite podcast platform, leaving us a positive review, and telling a friend. Thank you for your support.